Good morning, students. It is so wonderful to have you in week 12 of class. And today we're going to be elaborating and introducing a concept called education, the sociology of education. I am Dr. Shirley Brown, Professor of Sociology, Vice Provost for Online Initiatives, and Director of District Learning at Fisk University in the Department of Behavior and Social Sciences here in Nashville, Tennessee. So when we talk about this class, we do know that it is completely fully online, and occasionally I will have a face-to-face lecture so that I can see you and understand what's going on with you. And I want to say thank you for taking the fully online course with me. Introduction to Sociology is the title of this course. What I will do today is to give you a brief synopsis of what you will be experiencing when you go to Module 12 in your online course. And that is, you will see an overview of education, what education is, definitions or integration of the sociological perspectives like conflict, symbolic interaction, and the functionalist theory that explains education. We will elaborate within the lecture on some of the problems within education, particularly in elementary and secondary and higher education, some of the school safety issues and violence at all levels, and some of the opportunities and challenges in higher education and how we look forward to the future. I will not cover all of that today, but you will have that at your exposure when you go into your online class. Education, as an overview, is defined as the social institution responsible for the systematic transmission of knowledge, skills, and cultural values within a formally organized structure. We have two types of education, informal and formal. Informal education is the learning that occurs in a spontaneous, unplanned way. For example, you learn every day. Things that happen on campus, for example, you don't expect it to happen. It's spontaneous, it's unplanned, but it occurs. You leave the classroom, you become interactive with people that you haven't seen. It can happen when you're eating. So that's what we call informal learning. What's going on campus that you're learning. But formal education is the environment in which it is in an academic setting like today, where you have planned instruction, that you are taught principles and procedures and given material to enhance your learning opportunities. Education is very, very important in our society, and as students, once you graduate from this institution, you will go out into the real world. So we try to integrate and we try to produce students who can be leaders, who are highly educated, not just get a degree, but become educated. So understand that no matter what area your major is in, education is important for you. So now when we talk about education, how is education defined? What are some of the functions, some of the perspectives view of education? Well, let's look at the functionalist perspective. And you've had this, I'm not going to elaborate on it, but what are some of the manifest functions of the functionalist perspective? One is socialization. Education teaches you socialization. When you leave home to come to Fisk University, for example, you are re-socialized because some of those behaviors that you had, that you're bringing from your high school, you re-socialize to learn that you are now at college, you're becoming an adult, so you're socialized, you're learning every day. It is a process. Transmission of culture. You learn different cultures here while you're here at this university. Many of you are from various cities and states across the United States, and even internationally. And we're appreciative of that. So we learn every day from each other based on just region. You don't have to be international born, but just regionally we learn from each other. For example, with me coming from the South, I'm able to transmit some of my Southern ways, traditional ways to you, whereas many of you say, well, I've never had, for example, let's say soul food. That's a Southern thing. And you know, we eat chitlins in the South, and I talk to some of you students and you say, well, my God, what is that? That's horrible. Even Mr. Deminki, who's an Ethiopian, brings in his diversity of Ethiopian food, which is really totally different than what I have experienced, but it's transmission of that culture that enables us to be very diverse and multicultural. And that's what's so exciting about the education that we receive here in the United States, is that it is very diverse and that it's multicultural, and it helps us to broaden the horizon. It helps us to be better citizens in a democracy that stands for equality and etc. Also, social control. We learn that in school. There are certain behaviors that are accepted here at this university, and all universities, colleges and universities. We expect certain things from you. As a student, I expect for you to behave as a student. Change and innovation. You know, taking a course online is innovation, is social change. Face-to-face every day is becoming obsolete in so many ways. Blended is becoming very popular. Fully online courses, that's why I engage in fully online. It provides that opportunity for you. So there are many manifest functions that the functionist perspective explains society. A latent function are those unplanned consequences that occurs. An example of a latent function of education would be restricting some activities. There are certain things, you know, you are not allowed here. There's a dress code here at Fisk University. In other words, you're supposed to dress as professionals. You can't come here with Daisy Dukes and halter tops. That's probably an old cliche term now. But there's a certain dress code that we expect for you as college educating students to take on, to carry on, so when you graduate in 4 years, you'll be a better product, that we can sell that product to the world and be very, very proud of that. Sometimes even one of the latent functions that students have experienced, and I have heard from many students over the years, is that they meet their mates here. They get married. It wasn't expected, but they end up matchmaking or meeting someone and getting married and going on to lead great, great lives. So education is very important, not just in a formal way, but also in a very informal way. Let me ask you a question. How does education reproduce the existing class structure? And when we talk about class structure, we're talking about the conflict theory. And we know with the conflict theory, we're talking about social inequality, we're talking about gender inequality, we're talking about the haves and the have-nots, and education perpetuates conflict because there's a culture capital that's important, we track, there's a hidden curriculum, and there's credentialization that occurs within education. So from a conflict perspective, we will have different social classes within a classroom. One of the things that concerns me today is the fact, under this new administration, is that there is proposement in the budget to cut away free school lunches for elementary and secondary school kids. Well, when you do that for poor kids who may not have food at home, you are really targeting a very, very marginalized group that really need that food in the morning. So that really concerns me because I know there are many kids that go to school who don't have proper nutrition at home, but they can get a very good breakfast at school. So if that is taken away, then we have some problems. So as you are reading the lecture notes online, make sure you pay attention to some of the things that I'm saying this morning. Make sure that you understand that there are, even though education is important, there are issues with education. There are social problems within the educational structure in institutions across our country. That HBCUs, which produce over 25% of those with bachelor's degrees or higher, that is so important to be in existence for people of color and minority students. So education is crucial in our society. So as you read the chapter on education, make sure you pay attention to the symbolic interaction perspective. Make sure you pay attention to the feminist perspective as you're reading. So that's all I have for you today, just to kind of introduce that particular chapter to you. If you have any additional questions, please email me. Thank you so much.